Welcome to the Woodturning Workshop. Who in their right mind would want to turn pine? It's pretty lousy wood, right? Well, okay, I will. Today we're going to be turning Norfolk Island Pine. Stay tuned.
The Woodturning Workshop is made possible in part by
Woodcraft since 1928, providing traditional and modern woodworking tools and supplies to generations of craftsmen. Woodcraft, helping you make wood work.
TORMEK, water-cooled sharpeners with innovative jigs and setting devices. Getting your sharpening done quickly gets you back to the job at hand. TORMEK, sharpening innovation.
Well, we're not going to be turning just any pine. We're going to be turning Norfolk Island Pine, and it comes from Florida. It's a really cool wood because it has a lot of interesting characteristics that you don't find in pine. One is it has these really cool branches that come out of the side. And when you look at a piece that a buddy of mine, Jim Vanderland, turned, he used these branches to a really nice effect to make a pattern around this piece. But another thing about this wood is it's extremely stable. So you can turn things on center with the pith in the middle. And this is another piece Jim made, and the pith will not crack. It's amazing. But the other thing is you can use the branches to a nice pattern here. He also used some turquoise to inlay. Well, our project today, we're going to be turning a thin platter like this, kind of a bowl, a little bit shallow, and we're going to try to use these branches to the best we can to make a nice design. So let's get into the shop, warm up a little bit, and start our project. Well, the tools we're going to be using today: a roughing gouge, a special carbide tip tool, a Badan tool, a set of calipers, and also a bunch of bowl gouges, and I'll explain those as I use them. Hello neighbors, it's a beautiful day in the workshop. It's already been done. And I'm going to keep my shoes on too. There we go. Anyway, let's take a little bit closer look at the Norfolk Island Pine because there's a couple more things we want to talk about. First off, when you turn this and you want to use the branches to get yourself an effect like this, you have to keep in mind that it sits in the tree like this and the branches go down at about a 10-degree angle into the tree. So you got to know top from bottom. And my friend Paula Nix from Florida, she's a wood turner. She sent me the wood and she taught me a trick that if you look really closely down here at this branch, sorry I'm breathing heavy, it's a heavy piece of wood. You can see right there is the center of the branch. See this white going this way? That's pointing towards the bottom of the tree. So now we know that this is the bottom. Of course, if you have a friend in Florida who writes bottom on the wood, that helps a lot too, so it makes it a lot easier. So that's the bottom. I want to turn this over because I want to find the pith on this side because we want to center the pith on this. Let me scrape away some of this wax here. And you know, all my shaving stuck here. There's my pith. I'm going to take a two-prong drive center here and put this in here. I want to use two-prong because if this wood is uneven at any point, two prongs go in a lot better than four prongs. They give you a better bite and all around security. So now we're going to take this bad boy and put him on the lathe. Today on the World's Strongest Man competition, Norfolk Island Pine lifting. So anyway, we bring this up here and we put this on the lathe. I got it. We bring this up as best we can, lock this in. This is a very easy thing to do. Did I mention that? Okay, but bring this in, bring my live center right there. Okay, we're good. We're locked down there. Bring that up nice and tight. Now we got a honking big piece of wood on here. When you start working with something this large, you have to be very careful because first off, you can see this is off center. It wants to come down like that. So when we start this up and get ready to turn, we're going to make sure that we go very, very slowly. Oh, I need to get to the gym more often. So anyway, I can get my tool rest over here, it looks like, all the way so I can get across the whole face of this. And here's my widest point. Get that set up. Bring that down. This is very critical that you're very safe at this point because you don't want anything hitting, whacking. The brain will start working, I guarantee you, before this gets going. Okay, once I have this set up, we're going to start turning. Looks good. Now we want to start this very slowly, because watch what happens. We're bringing up the speed, and I'm going to put this down now just to be safe, and I'm out of the way. Anything goes wrong, I'm not in the path of it. You can see we're shaking the lathe right now. Let's come back off of that. See what I mean? You can shake the whole building really fast. So that was the difference probably between about 50 RPMs and 70 RPMs. So we want to keep it slow. Okay, now I'm taking my on-off switch and bringing it over to this side so I have easy access to it in case I get into an emergency situation. Everything's locked down, everything's good. I'm going to take my roughing gouge. This is a slow process. You have to be very careful going in here and start chipping away. Now you notice I'm getting the tool knocked back towards me, right? Because it's hitting wood, hitting air, hitting wood, hitting air. And it works, that's fine. But it can be a little bit wearing on you because the pressure is going down into here. You have this by your hip and it goes boom, 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 so you can start wearing your elbow out a bit. There are some new tools that are coming out now that are pretty cool where people are making carbide bits that are replaceable. You never sharpen them. So let me raise this up so I can talk a little better. So you see 1, I think that says 2, 3, 4 right there. So you actually rotate this to get a new edge. This will last a very, very long time. And the way this works is you bring it in, we're just at center, you have it on your tool rest, and you gently bring it in, and it starts cutting. Now you notice I almost have no movement of the tool coming back at me, right? It's a little bit easier to control, and it's less stress on you. So you can see, as this gets a little bit more in round, I'm able to pick the speed up on the lathe a little bit. Just don't go crazy, or you'll wind up having your lathe walk all the way across the shop. Yep, a little bit more here, we'll be ready to start on the end. Well, you can see now we're having a little bit more fun. We're starting to throw some pretty good shavings. And what I'm doing is I'm trimming up the end because I'll show you here. We want to work our way all the way up to the branches that are in the pine here. And unfortunately, if you notice, we're not very symmetrical with the branches right now. They're kind of going back and forth, so we probably won't get a perfect star pattern, but we're still going to have fun with this. Also, you can tell this is a lot thinner than it was, and that's because this tree is prone to what they call our shakes. Shakes are splits on the outside of the tree, so I don't know if it comes from wind damage, things like that making it move, but they are there, and if you don't turn it down past those, the corners or the sides of your bowl will split. So anyway, I've got this going, and I've been able to pick up my speed because this is more in round, which is very nice to have happen. And I've got a 3/4 inch bowl gouge here, and I'm just cutting along. There we go. Throw out some great shavings with this. It's a lot of fun, but I have a lot of wood to remove. So while I'm doing this, Bob Fulton, our buddy and genius of the jig, has a tip for us.
Quite often a wood turner is asked to turn a cremation urn for somebody, and one of the problems with that is that the prerequisite is that you need to have a good tight-fitting lid. One of the ways to do this, if you're not real good at turning threads out of wood, is to use a piece of PVC pipe. And I went to the plumbing store and bought this piece, which has the female and male threads on it. So what you do is put this in the lathe and turn away the pieces that you don't want, and then you'll be able to insert them into the lid and into the vessel, and you have a cremation urn with good threads and a tight fit so that the ashes won't be lost. That's my tip for the day. Keep turning, have fun. And Tim, this one's just for you.
One good turn deserves another, Bob. It's a little bit large for you, but I think you'll fit. Well, let me catch you up with what we've been doing. We're doing a lot of turning and making a whole lot of shavings, as you can see, which is quite fun. And we've been using a 3/4 inch bowl gouge. It has a V groove in it, about like that. Nice small tip. It allows you to do some aggressive turning, and with this long swept back edge, you can remove some really, really big shavings. Well, the point we're at right now is I've been working the wood back, and I've been getting to the point where I'm exposing the branches now, because I have to find the branches on the bottom to know where they're going to be on the top. Basically, I want to make this bottom, how would I put it, almost to the branches. You can see we're starting there. Well, I know they're in there at about a 1/2 inch now. So I want to get close to that, because when I finish turning this, it'll be about 3/16 of an inch thick. So I want to almost reveal the branches on the bottom, but not quite. So when I'm on the other side, I reveal them. And as I said, these aren't quite symmetrical, so I'll probably lose 1 or 2 of the branches on the bottom while I'm turning. But we have to do that to expose the most on the top that we can. So I'm going to start this up, and we got a nice speed going. Now I want to start this cut with the tool kind of flat. And we're only going to take off about 1/8 of an inch here. It's starting to cut. We can turn the tool up just a little bit. Now you hear a little bit of vibration there. I want to turn the tool up a little bit more so it's more of a clean cut. If you start getting a bounce, it's because you're hitting the knots from the branches, and you want to just back off and start to cut again, because once it starts to bounce, you can't get a clean cut. And usually the bounce will also start if you're rubbing your bevel too hard. And so I'm starting to get a bounce right there. I'm going to come back. I'm going to pick this up real light cut, just so I have a nice, even surface to cut on. There we go. The branches are pretty hard, so if you don't do this just right, it will bounce. Now we're going to pick up a big, thicker cut here, so you just go into it gradually. There we go. And this wood's not quite as wet as I would like it, so we're going to get a little bit of tear out. But that's okay, we'll take care of that with a nice fine pass towards the end. Now right in about here is where I'm going to start making the foot. And so I'll keep working the bowl back and keep that in mind while I'm making my cuts. Okay, now I'm making one last pass on the bowl, and I've switched to a 3/8 inch U-shaped bowl gouge with a slight swept back on it. The bigger curve here is not as aggressive, but the smaller tool allows me to make a finer cut. So I'm going to just come in here, and I just want to take whispers of wood off, because this final cut here is taking out any torn grain that I got from the roughing out process. And you can see just little tiny shavings are coming off of here. Anyway, let me clean that up right there a little bit. Okay, blend this in. Okay, now I'm not too worried about the very bottom of the bowl right now, because we're going to return that in a moment. But let me show you something on the bowl. It's starting to look like peacock feathers, I guess is the best way to describe it. So that shows me I'm very close to revealing the stem of the branches. Now, like I said, it won't be perfectly symmetrical this time, but that's okay. But now what I want to do is I want to finish the tenon on the foot here, so I can put this in my jaws. Turn this on. I'm going to bring my Badan tool in. Remember, I've ground that at an angle to match the inside jaws of my chuck. Just going to come in here make that cut. You don't need a huge tenon, but you need a properly shaped one. Now I'll bring my bowl gouge back in, and I'm going to start working away on the wood here. Now I don't want to take this down too thin, because if I take it down too thin, it's going to snap, and that would be bad. So really, I'm pretty much to where I want to start working on this. I'm going to stop the lathe. I'm going to bring in a pull saw, and I'm going to start cutting this through. And once I've got that done, we'll reverse this and put it on the chuck and start working on the inside of the bowl. And before I cut this all the way through, I'm going to sand the bottom to 240 grit. Okay, now I've got this reverse on the lathe. I'm holding it in my chuck, and I'm turning the top away just like I did the bottom, you know, to remove all that extra wood. I'm leaving a tin in the middle for safety. But as you notice, I'm moving at a pretty good speed right now, but as I get in towards the center, I'm actually cutting slower. Now why is that? Because I'm running at a certain RPM, probably about 500-600 right now, but that's not what's important. What's important is feet per second. And that's a whole different animal, because the feet per second in the middle here are different than the feet per second out here. Now there's got to be an easier way to explain this. Well, what better way to show you RPMs versus foot per second than with a merry-go-round? Okay, now, it's been a while since I've been on one of these. Okay, I'm in the middle. RPMs, right? Feet per second, right? All working good. Now I'll jump back out here, get to the same RPMs again, okay? Now look, how many more feet per second I'm running. So there's a lot more speed, a lot more energy on the outside than there is on the inside. So that's why there's a big difference in how many foot per second you're going rather than RPMs. So I hope that made sense to you. I really do. I really do. Oh, I'm getting too old for this. Oh, pretty clouds. Look, a horsey and a ducky. And I hope you know, I do my own stunts. And I have really good health insurance. Okay, from the joy of having big shavings to the agony of powder. You hear this? It's not an easy cut. Because I've turned away all that excess here, like we did before on the bottom. But now, since we're hollowing, we're kind of in an unsupported cut. We have all this end grain coming this way, and we're trying to pull back out on it. I can't make this cut too long, because we'll start to break out our side of our bowl, because that is going to be very thin. So we're going to have to actually start coming in this way and making cuts. And there you go. Lots and lots of dust. No pretty shavings anymore. But it still cuts fairly easily. Now I am using my large 3/4 inch V gouge, bowl gouge that I've been using the whole time. And it's okay while I'm working on the thicker parts of the bowl. But as I start to work my way back towards the rim, it takes such a large cut and has such a large profile, it starts putting pressure outwards. And since we're going to be shooting for about 3/16 of an inch thickness on the rim, I really don't want to use this for everything. So I'm going to switch over to this, which is my little 3/8 of an inch V-shaped bowl gouge. Now it's got a lighter tip, so it will take a softer, not a softer, more gentle cut. Is that a good way of saying it? So when I come in here, it doesn't remove as much wood, but it's also not putting as much pressure outward onto the edge of my bowl. Okay, you take the tool, you kind of have your hand here as a pivot. So you're going to start to cut. You're blocking it with your thumb from kicking back or sliding. Like that. So you push in and you kind of swing. Now I'm taking a large cut right there. As I get closer to the edge, I don't want to take as much. Cut it down to about 1/8 of an inch cut. Now I'm going to come over here because I want to clean up my rim. Now this is an unsupported cut, so I can actually pull back to do this, because I'm going into the fibers of the wood now. I want to make an angle here, just for aesthetic reasons, on my rim. Oh man, that tastes a lot worse than the shavings. That dust goes everywhere. Okay, now I can come in here just to make sure it's really clean. Now if I take a very, very light cut, I won't get any tear out. Okay, now we want our wall to be about 3/16 of an inch, so I'm almost there. I'm at a 1/4 inch right now, so we'll just take another 1/16 of an inch off here. And I'm looking over the top to make sure I don't make the wall too thin there. There, now I've worked that in, that's about a 1/4 of an inch. We'll come back here, move this wood, because I want to work my way down in about 1/2 inch increments at most. And we're going to have to pull our calipers out here in a moment to make sure that we're on track, that the wall thickness is where we want it. Looking real good. Okay. Okay, I've been working my way down using the calipers, thinning this out, working with my small tool right now, my bowl gouge. If you look, I gave up on the star pattern. I went a little bit deeper because these were so uneven, it wasn't going to work. So I went ahead and just went for an effect where you see the eyes of the limbs there. Now, to do the bottom, you're going to wind up with some torn grain, but if you switch to a regular grind, this is actually a standard grind for most bowl gouges. This is how you get them. They're very steep. But this is a U-shaped bowl gouge. What's cool about it is you can come in here and start taking a very light cut, and it will just dance across the bottom and take very fine shavings. And that will leave you a perfect cut, perfect bottom without any tear outs. Now once I get done with this, I'm going to sand the inside, and then we're going to reverse the bowl so we can finish turning off the foot. Okay, well, I got a crazy contraption on the lathe. This is an accessory set of jaws for your chuck. And it's like a pie plate, and these are adjustable in and out so you can put any diameter bowl on here, remount it so you can turn the foot. And what I want to do is we have torn grain from where we cut our tenon for the chuck. So we're going to turn that away. We're going to turn the foot away to where it's nice and attractive using our small bowl gouge. So we'll start this up, slow RPMs. Now I have my tailstock up here with a cone center with no point just to give me a little bit of support, because this is like turning the top of a drum. If you get a catch, it's going to poop out on you. So this is going to keep it in place, and I'll remove that at the very last and just cut that little nub off. So just make sure you have a very, very sharp tool and take very fine cuts to get the foot shaped just the way you want it. Okay, well, we have everything sanded, so we're ready to put our finish on. Now you can go two different ways. You can do a shiny finish like Jim, or go with an oil finish. Really cool effect because the oil soaks in and you can see through the wood. Very translucent. Also very natural type of finish. So you can use a soak method where you actually immerse it and soak it for a couple weeks. I don't have enough room to have a vat that big to soak the wood. But look at the colors come out on this now. Isn't that fantastic? Anyway, I'm just going to brush this in here and get it saturated. Once this is completely saturated, I'll let it sit for about 10 minutes and come back to it, and you'll see that it's soaked in certain areas, and it means you need more oil. So you then soak it again. Do that for about an hour, and both sides, and once you're done with that, then take it out, wipe it off completely. You don't want any excess oil, because I'm using a Danish oil, which is an oil with an accelerator to help it dry, and if you don't wipe off the excess, it gets gummy. But anyway, okay, you let it dry. After you wiped it off, come back the next day and apply another finish. Now you can do this for 3-4 days, a couple weeks if you want to keep applying finish layer after layer, and it'll get really beautiful, really deep, really translucent. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's project. It was a lot of fun, a lot of shavings. I love turning green wood. So until the next time on the Woodturning Workshop, keep turning. We'll clean you off later. Woo! I love that! Greenwood rules! Turn the lid off, move the tourist. Okay, sweet! Okay, back to it again. Whee! Shavings angels! This feels more aerobic than fun.
The Woodturning Workshop is made possible in part by
Woodcraft, since 1928, providing traditional and modern woodworking tools and supplies to generations of craftsmen. Woodcraft, helping you make wood work.
TORMEK, water-cooled sharpeners with innovative jigs and setting devices. Getting your sharpening done quickly gets you back to the job at hand. TORMEK, sharpening innovation.
For more information about the Woodturning Workshop, visit our website at rsupublictv.org.
Hello, neighbors. It's a wonderful day in the wood shop.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. It's a wonderful day in the wood shop.
Beautiful.
So beautiful. You think I would have learned from the last time? Move your hose away from the grinder. Woo! Was I supposed to mention that you're supposed to use good ventilation with this?
To purchase a copy of this program, please call 1-800-823-7210 or visit our website, rsupublictv.org.
This week on the Woodturning Workshop, who in their right mind would turn pine? And that will leave you at a perfect bottom without any tear out. Come in here, make that cut. Shavings angels!